Hello everybody, welcome to the first episode of Cryptic Conversations, where we'll be taking a look at everything weird and obscure, horror related or music related, in film and music. And today we're going to be talking about Misfits. Specifically the Collection 1 album. But this is one of my favorite bands of all time, the Misfits, and I love horror punk and hardcore in general. But today we'll be focusing on this album. Now, Collection 1 came out in, I want to say, 1988 or so, and it was just a collection of what Glenn Danzig thought to be his band, the Misfits' favorite or best songs. And it really shows. And this album has been a huge influence to me over the past couple years. I love all of the horror references that the band has made over in all of their songs in general. Everything from Psycho to Alien, even sometime, maybe, the song Hybrid Moments. But this album is great, and it changed my life when it came to watching classic horror movies such as The Fly, or even The Omen, or the Universal monster movies, for example. Really, this album has really changed my point of view on the classics. Nothing really special about the vinyl here, but it's just it's a classic album. This and the Collection Volume 2 was also released, I think, 10 years later or so, maybe more than, but which also featured what would go on to be the band's set, pretty much. Every song off this album and Collection 2 would be played live a lot. Now, the band only released 2 real albums. They had Walk Among Us in 1979, I believe, and Earth AD in 1983. And the band broke up October 29th, 1983, and broke up mid-show, and then they came back and finished the show. And they didn't get back together until, I think, 2016 in Riot Fest, and which was the first time Doyle, Jerry Only, and Glenn Danzig had been on a stage since then, since October 29th, 1983. Now, the Misfits are a fantastic band. They do not have a bad song to me. Everything Glenn Danzig era and Michael Graves era is perfect to me. And I could listen to those albums and songs nonstop forever and just keep going on. The Misfits have an amazing catalog of great songs, great albums, great live albums even. Evil Eye is a great live album and really projects that energy of 80s hardcore perfectly into their record or into their live album setting. And I just think it fits the whole aesthetic of the band really well. In the beginning of horror business, you can hear people shouting and Jerry shouting, and it just makes the atmosphere so closed. Like you really get a sense of what the band were like live at that point, which I believe that album was recorded in 82, I think. But fantastic live album, fantastic collection. And after Glenn Danzig, they hired a man named Michael Graves. About years later, they released 2 albums with Michael Graves, one in 1997 titled American Psycho, and then 2 years later in 1999 had an album called Famous Monsters. And on Famous Monsters, they signed to Roadrunner Records, and in between American Psycho and Famous Monsters, they had kicked out Michael Graves and replaced him with a man named Mike Hideous, who I'm hoping in the future to have on this show. I'm very excited for that. And then after Famous Monsters, they toured a little bit with Michael Graves, and then carried on with Jerry Only. And during that time, they released Project 1950 and Devil's Reign without Doyle. They had, can't quite remember the man's name, from Black Flag. Dez? Yeah. Dez come in from Black Flag, I believe, is the band he was from. But there's so much I could go into depth here about with the Misfits and Misfits-related projects and things like that, like Sam Hain and Danzig and things like that, and Doyle's solo project. But this album, this band even, is just amazing. Go check it out. They are so much more than just Green Hell, Last Caress, and Attitude, known pretty well by Metallica covering Die Die My Darling and Last Caress and Green Hell, and Guns N' Roses being covering Attitude by the Misfits. And yeah, that's gonna do it for this first episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I can keep creating content that's decent and good enough for people to watch. So thank you.